Have you ever heard about the grandest mystery of France? You haven't? Well, then listen. An old house on Montmorency Street over time increasingly draws tourists' attention with its mystique and also inspires many poets. For instance, the name of its world-famous owner, Nicolas Flamel, and the building itself are mentioned in the bestsellers of Joanne Rowling and Dan Brown. And today, I suggest we delve into all its secrets in more detail together. But I've saved the biggest mystery for the end. Make sure to watch until the finish, and don't forget to like. Pay close attention, it's going to be interesting. House 51. In Paris, the most ancient of the fully preserved buildings is considered to be the unassuming stone house at number 51. It was constructed in 1407 on Montmorency Street. However, architectural features are far from the only reason for the frenzy around it. The fact is that the owner of this house, Nicolas Flamel, is no less interesting and mysterious. A renowned alchemist who, according to legend, managed to unravel the secret of the philosopher's stone. As known, the personality and biography of this man are shrouded in a multitude of mysteries, which even great scientists cannot solve to this day. To learn more about Nicolas, let's first dive into his past. A common scribe and notary from Pontoise came to Paris to realize his own ambitions. Rumor has it, by some miracle, he managed to acquire a manuscript, which allegedly contained the secret to creating the philosopher's stone, capable of turning lead into gold. Interestingly, to this day, scientists and historians have been unable to figure out exactly how Nicolas managed to become so suddenly wealthy. However, imagine, the alchemist really did manage to buy dozens of plots all over Paris, among which was that very house on Montmorency. Flamel, along with his wife named Perenelle, set up a boarding house for the poor and homeless people who had given up and lost their life's direction. In return, they asked to read a prayer in the morning and evening. Thanks to such actions, Nicolas managed to earn the reputation of a patron and benefactor, and by the way, in House 51 he lived, note, until the end of his days. House 51 today. Today this four-story unusual building is squeezed by the modern structures of the city. Notably, on the building's facade, there's still an interesting inscription that's impossible to overlook when passing by. From Latin, it translates to, "We, the tillers, men and women living here and staying under the shelter of this house, built in the year 1407 from the Nativity of Christ, are obliged to daily offer prayer to the Lord, reading Our Father and Hail Mary, begging the Lord to forgive the unfortunate deceased sinners. Amen." Today, Flamel's house is adorned with bas-reliefs that were hidden under a thick layer of plaster for a long time. Not too long ago, specialists carried out restoration work, after which the building regained a look closely resembling its original. Interestingly, there used to be a fresco on the facade depicting Jesus Christ, Nicolas Flamel, and his spouse Perenelle, but, unfortunately, it could not be preserved. It's worth noting that a major renovation of the house only occurred in 2007, managing to wonderfully maintain the charm of the medieval mansion. And now, on the first floor of the famous structure, known in France as the Falcon House, there's a top-notch restaurant named the Flamel Tavern. It notably serves French cuisine. Interestingly, there's a special menu for children with the symbolic name Harry Potter. Flamel's story. Well, now you've learned what House 51 was like before and what it looks like today. Let's now delve more into the life story of the alchemist himself and his mysteries. I'll start with the fact that the renowned alchemist was born near Pontoise in a poor family. His parents passed away when Nicolas was still very young, so he deeply struggled with the loss. To clear his mind and distract himself, he decided to visit Paris and became a public scribe. But once there, he was so enchanted by the local beauty that he decided to stay in Paris forever. Soon after, Flamel met his future wife named Perenelle. Notably, this woman was much older than Nicolas and was also a widow twice over. After marrying, he decided to rent two workshops, one for himself and the other for his apprentices and copyists. Then, in 1357, he became the owner of a small bookshop, and it was then that he purchased a unique papyrus titled The Book of Abraham the Jew. Just imagine, for a whole 20 years Flamel endeavored to decipher the secret meaning of the book, half of which was written in Aramaic. To translate this part into a language he understood, Nicolas, under the guise of a pilgrimage, visited Jewish communities in Spain. It was after this that the well-known myth emerged about Nicolas supposedly uncovering the secret of the philosopher's stone and the elixir of life. But is it so? the mystery of Flamel. But why has this myth become so strongly associated with the alchemist, you might ask? In fact, scholars and historians see a correlation with the man's incredible longevity. You'll understand what I mean as we go on. In 1382, Nicolas, in a relatively short period, mysteriously acquires about 30 houses, of course, along with their adjacent land parcels. Approaching old age, and indeed in his later years, he begins to engage in philanthropy, establishes a couple of new funds, and invests his own finances in the development of such a field as art. He also puts money into the construction of chapels and hospitals across the country. As known, his wife Perenelle passes away in 1404, and the alchemist himself presumably in 1418. But interestingly, he preemptively chose a burial site for himself and his wife, namely, the Church of Saint-Jacques-la-Boucherie. Since the couple was childless and had no heirs, practically all the property owned by Flamel was bequeathed to this church. According to legend, Nicolas predicted his own death and, moreover, prepared very meticulously for it. However, it is rumored that the funeral was nothing but a staged event and that Flamel and his wife simply disappeared in an unknown direction. Where do such conclusions come from? Simply because the legend continued. Nicolas was increasingly seen with his wife after their death. But how could this be, you might wonder? Keep watching till the end, and you will definitely find out. And by the way, leave your comments on what you think about this. And of course, don't forget to like. Unexplained cases. The legend spread so quickly around the world that, 200 years after Flamel's death, the French authorities decided to dispel all doubts once and for all. The grave was opened, but Nicolas's body was not found. Since then, unexplained and strange events began to occur. For instance, Paul Lucas, a 17th century traveler, told a very unusual story that happened to him. According to him, one day he was walking through a garden near a mosque in Bursa, which is now in Turkey. It was there that he met a man who claimed to be the best friend of Nicolas Flamel and his wife. Furthermore, the stranger claimed that just 3 months ago, they all had been resting together in India and then parted ways. This man also told that the couple had simply staged their own deaths and fled to Switzerland. All would be fine, but there is one huge but. If his story were true, then Nicolas would now have to be at least 300 years old. And that seems devilish. Here's another interesting example. Old Sir Mersel, who was a clergyman in the 18th century, insisted that he saw the famous alchemist working in an underground laboratory in the center of Paris. An interesting feature of this story is the following. The man spoke of the laboratory being separated from the outside world by 7 doors. In 1761, the couple was spotted at the Paris Opera. Moreover, Perenelle and Nicolas were not alone, but with a son, whom according to rumors they had in India. Later, he was seen looking out at night from the window of the same house 51. And in 1818, an elderly blonde man wandered the streets of Paris, insisting with confidence that he was Nicolas Flamel. Nicolas's will. According to legend, the first version of Nicolas's will was written in the form of a cipher, on the margins of a small psalter that could fit into a pocket. Naturally, that wasn't the end of it. Flamel entrusted the cipher key to his only distant nephew. Each letter of the mysterious code had 4 possible variations, and the total number of characters was 96. Such secrecy and mystery were needed by the alchemist to better protect the information contained in the will. It is said that Nicolas described all the stages of creating the philosopher's stone in the will itself. The will is addressed to Flamel's nephew. The nephew claimed that his relative took the recipe for the stone to the grave and asked him to do the same. Currently, no one knows for sure if this will actually exists or if anyone managed to decipher this secret code, so carefully concealed by the great man of that time. I believe this story has left none of you indifferent, but whether you believe its authenticity or not is for you to decide. And overall, I would like to hear your opinion on this urban legend though. Are they just legends? That's all for today. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel and don't forget to like it. And of course, click on the bell icon to stay updated on new projects on the channel. Thanks everyone for your attention and goodbye.